This podcast is a production of Widener Law Commonwealth in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. For more information, visit commonwealthlaw.widener.edu/podcast.
Hello, and welcome to Widener Law Commonwealth's podcast. I'm your host, Tara Mead, and today we're going to be discussing admission to law school, including the application process, things as a student you should keep in mind, what to do and what not to do, and quite a bit more. I'm joined by Matt Kerns, Widener Law Commonwealth's Associate Dean of Admissions, who will walk us through this process and provide some tips to law school applicants. Matt, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you.
First off, making the decision to apply to law school is quite a bit different than, of course, applying to college. Can you talk a little bit about the differences and, of course, why timing is important, not just about deadlines, but some other things that students should keep in mind?
Yeah, applying to law school or making the decision to attend law school is definitely different from undergrad. It's a very specialized degree. It's there's a high level of skill involved, and there's a lot that you're going to learn while you're in law school. I think one of the key questions that candidates should ask themselves before they ever pick up the pen or turn on their computer to apply to law school is really ask themselves the question, why law school? Why do I want to take on the challenge of law school? What am I passionate about that makes me want to take this next step? Because there's a lot of great things that you could do with your life. Law school is just one of them. But knowing the answer to that question, why law school, is going to help you throughout the entire admissions process because it helps you focus your energies in a productive direction. And then once you answer the question, why law school, and you start applying to law schools, then you ask yourself, why that law school? So, is there something about that law school, a program or a professor that, you want to work with? And once you kind of figure out what your passion is and what that law school's mission is, you can tie together a really strong application.
And obviously, it's so much more when you apply to law school than just filling out the application. Is there an interview process as well where you meet not with, the admissions team, but also, the dean of the school or, other professors and, that whole process?
Yeah, the admissions process for most law schools is pretty straightforward. Some law schools do have interview processes, usually with a professional in the admissions office or an alumni. Widener Law Commonwealth does not. But for the process for applying to law school, really the first step is taking the law school admissions test, or now many schools are accepting the GRE. And most students take that after the summer after their junior year in college, or about a year and a half before they start law school if they're a non-traditional student. And that's really the first step. That's the kind of the entry point is taking that test and getting a score. And then, in the fall, before you would like to start law school, most applications are opening up. So, for example, our application opens up October 1st of every year. And then if you apply before January of the year you want to start, you're usually in the front half of the application cycle, which is very important for the admissions process to apply early when there's seats and scholarships available.
What is the LSAT, and how does that play a role in this as well? Or is that a little bit of a separate component?
No, the LSAT is a big component of law school admissions. I wouldn't say it's the only component. Most law schools are doing a holistic review of applications. So, of course, we're looking at your LSAT and we're looking at your undergraduate GPA, but we're also looking at other things in your application that would make you a successful law student. Law schools are really looking for students that, of course, are going to be academically qualified and be able to do the work academically. However, there's a lot more to law school and the legal profession than that. We're looking for students that are going to be engaged in their community. They're going to take on leadership roles. They're going to be involved in community service. Lawyers are public servants, and so we really need to be cognizant of that as we're going through law school. Students are going through law school, that we're producing the future leaders of society. And so we're looking for all those traits in an application when reviewing.
So when students start that process of applying, what are some things they should do? And then on the flip side, what are some things that they should avoid doing?
Yeah, I think the first thing that students should do is research. Get as much information as you can about the law schools that you're applying to. That way you can tailor your application to each law school that you're applying to. And also edit. I cannot stress that enough. Edit. It's so important. There's an old adage that's probably been attributed to everyone, and it's, if I had more time, I would have written a shorter letter. And the idea behind that is, when you edit, you're actually able to be more concise. You're able to, get your point across much better. And I think that really applies to your law school application, because you only have a finite space for your personal statement and your resume and any addenda, and so you want to be as concise as possible, as clear as possible, and so editing cannot be understated.
What are some things they should avoid doing, though? Are there things that they do that might have them look may make them look a little less favorable?
Yeah, on the application, I mean, again, it almost comes down to editing. If you're not
Okay.
editing and you have a lot of typos, or I see this all the time, and that's why I really want to go to XY school when they're law school, when they're really applying to Y law school. It's just
Whoops.
that attention to detail is really important. So that's really important. And I would say the other thing that students don't do that they should do more of is ask for help. Is go out and, if your university or college has a pre-law advisor, talk to the pre-law advisor. If they have a career services office, talk to your career services office. Get their input on your personal statement and your resume and how you can tailor those. Of course, they can't write them for you. It's got to be your work. But they can help you and give you feedback. And students don't take advantage of that enough. And it does put them at a disadvantage, because there's students that are out there using it. So you might as well use it too.
Right, absolutely. And are there some misconceptions that prospective students hear about the law school application process? And if so, what are they?
Yeah, I hear all sorts of stuff. I think, one of the misperceptions is that we're only looking at LSAT and GPA when making decisions. That's not true at all. I've certainly denied people well above our median LSAT and GPAs and accepted people well below our median LSAT and GPAs. So just because students have a score that might be above a school's medians doesn't mean they're automatically going to get admitted. And likewise, if they have scores that are below their medians, that doesn't mean they're automatically going to be denied. It's really about putting together a really strong holistic application, showing those traits that we talked about earlier, the leadership, the community service, being engaged. That's really going to help an application pop, and the admissions committee want to accept that person. So having that full application package, taking each piece seriously, is very important.
And I'm pretty sure you've had students who, after they've applied, aren't wasting much time in contacting you or other members of our admissions team about their application status. And, understandably, they're anxious, and they may not be in the most patient frame of mind, because they're wanting to know what, this is a big chunk of their future. So what recommendations would you have for them?
Yeah, most admissions office we don't mind if you reach out. We're here to answer questions. We're here to help you. Generally, for our application process, and this is generally true for most law schools, you're probably going to be looking at at least 2 to 4 weeks for an admissions decision. At the very minimum, realistically. And that's because we have a lot of applications that come in, and they need to be processed, and then they need to be sent on for review, and the review process takes some time. So, after you complete your application and and you submit it, it's not going to you're not going to get an answer probably in the same week. It's probably going to take a couple of weeks. Another way you can look at your application status is LSAC provides what they call the applicant status online. And so when you apply to a law school, they should send you an email that says they received your application and a link to the application status online portal, where you can check the status of your application and see where it's at in the admissions process. And so if we just received it, ours will say we just received your application. If it's complete, we'll say it's been sent on for review. And so you can kind of keep track there. So without reaching out to the admissions office, you have that control to be able to see that. Now, if you haven't heard from the admissions committee in a while, and it's been 4 weeks or however amount of time that law school says is typical, there's nothing wrong with reaching out and saying, hey, I applied a few weeks ago. I was wondering if there's any updates on my application. I wanted to make sure I didn't miss any emails or communication that may have come out that may have gone to my spam, box. That's totally fine. Just don't email us every day. most admissions offices are going to be pretty responsive to that. And let you know, because sometimes maybe we did make a decision on your application and it got sent to your email and it went to spam. That happens, so we're understanding of that.
So do you give them a timeline at the very beginning, like that, so that way they have an expectation that it's going to be X number of weeks before you will hear from us, and then in the meantime, like you said, they can check in the system to see where they are in that process?
Yeah, absolutely. For us, all that information is on our website, where we have a outline of the admissions process and a frequently asked questions page. So that goes into kind of doing your research with each law school, and every law school is going to be a little different on that and how they process applications and their timeline. So first, check the law school's website, because a lot of them have the timeline laid out right there.
Now, once these students hear back that they've been accepted, what are the next steps that you would recommend that they do?
Yeah, that's a great question. Once you're accepted, of course, congratulations, you've been accepted to law school. That is a huge step. And, law schools, long gone are the days when you look to the left and to the right and, someone says in 3 years, one of those people won't be there. If you're accepted to law school, we expect you to succeed in law school. We expect you to pass the bar. So that's the expectation there. So you should certainly be proud of that. But next steps, realistically, after you've been accepted to law school, there's sort of, you usually have a few months before, school starts in August. So some things that you can do is, if you're going to be applying for federal financial aid, fill out the FAFSA, reach out to the financial aid office at that law school to if you have any questions about the process and getting that started. During the summer, as far as timeline goes, usually you'll get orientation information, like a detailed schedule, and as well as your book lists in late July. But before that, relax, take it easy, see family, see friends. Law school is going to be very challenging, and you're not going to have time to spend a ton of time with your family. So the summer before law school, take advantage of that. Get all your ducks in a row, find housing. If you can work the summer before law school and save up money, that's great. Do that as well. That way you can have some spending money once you get here, because once you hit law school, you really don't have time your first year to have a job, because you're spending all your time studying and reading and preparing for class. And so to the extent that you can get those type of things out of the way and managed and organized before law school, then that's the best use of your time.
Now, sort of as a side note, we do have a program for students that want to get their law degree but are working full time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you're a part-time student, then you can work during the day and then go to school at night. Yes, that's very possible. But for the average full-time student, you're not going to be working your first year of law school.
Yeah, we'll keep you pretty busy here, I'm sure. For those students that didn't get accepted, I guess the biggest question is, what advice do you have for them how to handle that, especially if it's a student who's very disappointed and feels that they should have been accepted? Do they get some feedback as to why they weren't accepted?
Yeah, I would say for that, don't just because you're not accepted to law school, don't take that too personally. There are a finite number of seats at a law school, and there just might not be room. I know when students apply later in the cycle, if they had applied much earlier and we had more room, we probably would have accepted them. So timing can go in that, and there just might not be room available in that class, no matter how strong an application is. So that might go into it. As far as individual admissions decisions, the admissions committee doesn't disclose to the law school or the students, the reasons for their decision, because they can vary widely. A lot of the time, it's just like I said, there's not enough room in the class. But for us, when we send your denial email, there's going to be some resources there for students as well, links to resources. So there's all sorts of things that you can do. There's an organization called the Council on Legal Education Opportunity that runs summer programs for students that are interested in applying to law school, to help them through the application process and give them a little bit more insight on how to strengthen their application and prepare for law school. There's organizations like Access Lex, who is starting a pre-law program as well that does something very similar, helps students. I think theirs is a 6-month program, kind of coaches students through the application process. It also helps prepare them for law school and what they'll be working on. And so there's enrolling in one of those type of programs would be very useful because it shows your commitment to going to law school and also that you're preparing for the challenges of law school.
So definitely a lot of really good resources out there to help students, through this process.
Yep, absolutely.
So before we close out our podcast, I know we've covered a lot in a short period of time. Any final words or advice that you'd like to share for maybe somebody who's listening who is thinking about law school?
Yeah, I mean, law school and becoming a lawyer or entering the legal profession is something noble. I mean, law touches everything that we do as a society, and so if you're listening and you're thinking about how you can make a difference in your community or in the global community, law school is the way to do it because laws just govern so much. Whether you find them just or unjust, they're there, and it takes lawyers to change them. And because they can understand the process, they can understand how to change it, and it's a great way to really make a difference in society.
Great. Well, thank you again, Matt, for joining us today. And also thank you to our listeners for tuning in, and be sure to stay tuned for our next episode.
Great. Thank you.
Widener University Commonwealth Law School is the Pennsylvania capital's only law school, with 3 specialized centers of legal scholarship through its Law and Government Institute, Environmental Law and Sustainability Center, and Business Advising Program. Widener Law Commonwealth offers an exceptional learning experience that is personal, practical, and professional. Visit commonwealthlaw.widener.edu for more information.